Our good friend Kelly Brotzman from the Prison Book Program here in Quincy is joining us once again to chat a little bit about that program and a special event that they have coming up later on this month. Kelly, great to see you again.
It's so nice to see you again, Joe. Thanks for having me on.
You are very welcome. It's been a little while since we told folks
Yes.
about Prison Book Program, but it's been around for over 50 years.
It has. It's been around since 1972.
Wow.
So we're in our 53rd year.
Yeah.
And we've been in Quincy Center in the basement of the Church of the Presidents for 21 years. I think we went, 2004.
Okay.
So we've been around in the neighborhood for a long time. We bring a lot of people to Quincy. We have volunteer sessions several times a week, 35 people per session. Most of those people are not from Quincy. If some are. We love our Quincy crew. But they come from all over Greater Boston, and very often they stop and get a cup of coffee or get a meal or something before or after. So we like to think we're bringing a little bit of business to the community here too.
Yeah. And what it does is right in the name. You provide books to folks in prison, right?
Our core work is to respond to requests for books and reading materials from incarcerated people in prisons and jails across the United States.
Across the country, yeah.
We serve more than 1,000 individual facilities. Like I say, at least some in every state.
Mm-hmm.
We try really hard to send people the specific materials they're looking for. So our space is set up very much like a small bookstore.
Yes.
We have, a smallish section for almost every genre of book that you can think of, and subject area. And so what we do is people submit their requests, mostly in a personal letter. They write us and say, hey, I'd like a history book, I'd like a psychology book, I'd like a romance.
Okay.
We strive to provide them with a 3-pound package of reading materials that fit their specific needs and interests and honor their reading preferences. And it's all 100% free to the reader.
Where do you get your books from, Kelly? Where do all those
Every
books come
possible
from?
place you can
Is
think
that
of.
right?
Yes.
Yeah.
So the vast majority, I would say about 70% of our books are community donations.
Okay.
We take books on a walk-in basis
Oh.
anytime we have a volunteer session, which, as I said, is 4 times a week at present. We're going to 5 sessions a week, actually pretty soon, next year. So it's like more than 200 times a year that people can come by. All of our volunteer sessions are listed on our website.
Oh, okay.
And so community donation is really the cornerstone of where we get all our books. And then we have relationships with publishers. So we have a volunteer who regularly solicits publishers for free or low cost, deeply discounted books. We work with several bookstores. We have 8 partner independent bookstores throughout Greater Boston where we have wish lists, and those wish lists are chock full of books that we just always need. We can never have enough of.
Okay.
And so very kind donors go to those wish lists and they purchase those books. So we have those as a source of books. And then there's a very small sort of piece of the pie that we actually directly acquire ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
And that is usually reference material, dictionaries, almanacs, thesauri, a few really commonly requested topics where we would just, if we relied exclusively on donations, we would never have enough quantity on hand. Things like how to draw. Taking up drawing is a hugely popular hobby.
Makes sense.
For incarcerated people.
Sure, yeah.
And hobby books, puzzle books, crosswords, that sort of thing.
Absolutely.
So there's a very small, like I say, set of books that we actually directly acquire. But mostly it comes in through community donation, through our relationships with publishers and bookstores. We also have some volunteers who are authorized to spend small amounts of money, and they go to library sales. They frequently come to the book sale room here at the Thomas Crane Public Library.
Yes.
And they go to, secondhand stores, garage sales, those sorts of things, and scoop up the books that we need, the books that we could use.
Okay.
So really every method you can think of getting books is how we stock our inventory.
And do you get the books back after they're done reading?
No, so
Okay.
we mail the books to the recipient and they become their personal property.
Okay.
Some people will occasionally, like if they're leaving prison or they're going home, they'll sometimes say, why don't I? I'll mail my books back.
Okay,
So
yep.
it's happened a couple of times
Yep.
in the time I've been at Prison Book Program, but it's pretty rare. They become the personal property of the recipient, and so they can do with them what they choose. But what most people tell us they do with like a fiction book, or a book that they're not necessarily going to keep as the relatively small number they can have in their cell at any given time. They'll pass it around to their friends. They'll make a list of everyone they know who wants to read it, and they'll make sure it circulates. And then when everyone's had their chance with it, they'll put it into the institution's library.
I see. Okay.
So that's what most people tell us they do. But with nonfiction books and reference books, think about something like a religious text, something like that. People will very often keep it as one of the allotment that they can have in their cell, or they'll study it. We send an awful lot of study guides for the high school equivalency test.
Oh, okay.
And the idea there is to actually work in the book. So,
Yes.
Once they're done with it, it may not be usable by another person.
Don't want to give the answers away. Yeah.
But it's, huge impact to have
Yeah.
something you can study for that test in your cell.
Sure.
Rather than just in the classroom. So, a lot of different things. People can also choose to mail their books to a safe outside address. So if it's a book that they're going to use in their process of reentry, perhaps it's how to start your own business, or putting together a resume, or we send an awful lot of job hunting books and career starting related books. And so books like that, people tell us most often they mail home to a parent, a spouse,
Sure.
wherever, so that for safekeeping, so that they have access to it when they go home.
Yep. So are there not libraries in prisons?
So most prisons do have a library.
Okay.
Most jails, by the way, do not. They are not legally obligated to provide any kind of
Oh,
programming,
interesting.
education, classes, libraries, that sort of thing.
Okay.
So some jails do, and they do so, at their own expense. And
So
sort
a jail, like at the county level.
the
we're
jail
talking,
would be,
right?
yeah, jails are run by municipalities or regions or counties
Yeah.
or cities. And they are not under the same legal obligations that prisons
That's
are
state and
post-sentenced.
federal prisons,
Yep,
yeah.
state and federal prisons.
Okay.
Those hold people who've been sentenced.
Correct.
Most jails hold people who are just waiting. They're
trial,
waiting
yep.
for trial.
Yep.
So most prisons do have a library, but a lot of people tell us that the quality varies and the size varies.
Yeah.
So some people tell us, well, our library is a metal cart about this big, and
Okay,
it has,
all right.
100 books on it,
Not-
and
not
they're
what
falling
we would think
apart.
of as a library. Yeah. Okay.
Even when there is an actual room called the library, that doesn't mean you can go to it. So a lot of people tell us that their facility lacks a librarian at the moment.
I see.
And so the library is locked and
No
closed
access.
and no one can go to it.
Gotcha.
Or, maybe there's one librarian covering 6 facilities, and so your library may be open, one day a month or whatever. So, and going to the library is a privilege that can be taken away in
Yes.
prison, and
Gotcha.
frequently is, as a punishment. So people in usually the restrictive housing sections of most prisons cannot go to the library. If they're lucky, a cart of books might come to them. But having books in your own personal possession is just hugely important. Given the frequency of lockdowns, which is no movement outside the cell.
Sure.
Those are increasingly common for short staffing, so to have books that are actually belong to you and in your cell is really, really
You
important.
can read whenever you choose. right?
Yeah.
Prison Book Program is a nonprofit 501c3
Yes,
corporation,
we
right?
have been the whole time.
Right,
Yep.
right. And it takes fundraising
It
to
does.
make it work, right?
It does. None of this happens. All of the books that we send are free to the reader.
Yes.
But the work that we do does cost money.
Yes.
So we welcome financial donations of any size.
Sure.
We have a donate button on our website.
Okay.
Checks can be mailed to our business address, which can be found also on our website.
Yep.
And again, we will gladly accept donations of books during any volunteer session.
And there is a special fundraiser
That's
coming
right.
up in Boston.
right.
Yeah, tell us about that.
Very exciting event. We are partnering with More Than Words Bookstore, which is a wonderful kind of allied organization. They sell both new and used books, and they utilize, give jobs to young people who are involved in the system, either the court system, the foster care system, or exiting foster care. And so we are using their space to host an event next Thursday, October 23rd, starting at 5:30. And our featured speaker will be Sean Ellis, who is fairly well known here in Greater Boston for the Netflix docu-series that featured his story, which was called Trial 4. Sean was wrongfully convicted as a very young man and spent 22 years wrongfully incarcerated in Massachusetts prisons. And the title of the docu-series is Trial 4 because it took 4 trials to actually right that wrong and fully exonerate Sean. So Sean is going to tell his story, but also talk about the importance that books played during his time inside, and also his struggle to sort of challenge his situation. So it's going to be an evening of kind of celebrating the work that Prison Book Program does, and featuring just a really compelling story from Sean.
Yeah, it's a ticketed event, which is just about full, right?
It is a ticketed event, and we're happy that most of the tickets have been sold. I want to say there's 10 or fewer than 10 left today, but they can be still got. A few can still be gotten on our website, and it is $25 for a ticket. We will have catering from Oleana. We'll have beer and wine there, so it'll be a really nice evening.
Very nice. Does Sean work for exonerating folks who may be wrongly imprisoned?
Yes. So his position now is director of the Exoneree Network through the New England Innocence Project, which was instrumental in helping him, as well as the Committee for Public Counsel Services here in Massachusetts, in providing him with the legal representation that he needed to be exonerated. But now he helps people both who have been exonerated and released, helping them with that journey back into free society, which is incredibly difficult and just riddled with pitfalls and struggles. But also folks who are still inside who are working toward being exonerated. So the Exoneree Network helps people on both sides of the wall, post-exoneration and working toward exoneration. Incredibly important work. The research in this area is somewhat nascent, but the best research from the Center on Wrongful Convictions says that maybe as many as 1% of the people in our prisons and jails are factually innocent. So it sounds like a very small amount, but we've got 1.8 million people in there. So do the math. You're talking about a fairly significant group of people who may actually shouldn't be there.
Right.
And so the work that Sean does brings a great deal of attention to that. And so we're just happy to sort of shine a light on that message.
Sure. If folks can't attend this particular event, there's donation opportunities.
Yes.
To both organizations, I'm guessing, right?
Yes. The New England Innocence Project is another 501c3, and they also rely on support from generous contributors, as we do. We welcome, as I say, donations of any size on our website to support the work that we do. And More Than Words as well is also a 501c3.
Is that right?
Yeah, so we're all nonprofits, and we all can use the support in our case in the form of books or money.
or time, right?
Or time, yes. We always need volunteers. We have, like I say, 4 sessions a week at present now, but we're going to go to 5 in 2026, at the start of 2026. And so, more than 200 times a year we gather in the basement over there, and we can have up to 35 people per session. The sign-ups are all on our website or through Boston Cares, which is a great one-stop shop for hundreds of different volunteer opportunities throughout Greater Boston, including some spots at our sessions. So folks can sign up either place. And we have a job for anyone. Literally anyone who wishes to volunteer, we can find a job for you to do.
Very good. Okay. How did you get involved with this, Kelly, yourself?
My prior career was in higher education, both teaching and administration. And I started very early on in my teaching career. I was volunteering with an organization here in Greater Boston, actually called Partakers, which provides academic mentors to incarcerated people who are taking one of our many college and prison programs that we have in Massachusetts. And what we did is, just sort of help the incarcerated students with the soft skills side of their college education, how to study, how to, organize a paper, brainstorm topics, that sort of thing. I had never set foot in an American prison or jail. I didn't even know anyone who had ever had any contact with the system. And it really impacted me tremendously. I worked with one woman at MCI Framingham and another gentleman at MCI Norfolk. And it just sort of gradually became a passion of mine to sort of pull back the curtain on what actually prison is like in this country. Later in my career, I developed the very first what are called Inside Out courses at another university that I was teaching at in Virginia. Inside Out courses are college classes that co-enroll an equal number of incarcerated students and regular non-incarcerated college students. They generally take the class alongside each other in a classroom at the prison.
I see.
So I did that for several years and got to know, many of my incarcerated students very, very well. And it's always just been a passion of mine to help people understand incarcerated people who are, for the most part, invisible to members of the general public. Unless you have a loved one who is incarcerated, you really don't have to go through your day and think about people behind the prison walls in this country. But there are still, even though we've come down since 2008, which was the peak of the prison population at 2.3 million, we still have just over 1.8 million people in there. That's enough people to make up this country's 5th largest city. Wow. Just behind Houston, So it's a lot of people, and what I find is that people in our nation's prisons and jails are just like people on the outside. They're complicated, they're interesting, they're multifaceted, they have stories, their lives have an arc. They're more, and I think in the eyes of people like you and I, we associate them with that moment in the courtroom when they're sentenced, right? And that's who they are. That crime for which they were convicted, that sentence that they received. But what I have found is that there's so much more than that. They're parents, they have special skills and talents. A lot of them, carry tremendous pain, have caused tremendous pain. Which of us has not, can't say the same thing. And so it's part of, why I love working for Prison Book Program is because I get to sort of introduce people. Over 1,400 people volunteered with us last year. Wow. And they all got a front row seat to basically, learning about what incarcerated people's lives are like. Right. And I think the more people learn about that, the more people understand that this system, which really sort of sprung up over a 40-year period, this sort of policy experiment called mass incarceration, that it came with tremendous costs. And so it basically lets people look inside a system that is, for the most part, closed off again. So that's a part of the job that I really enjoy.
Yeah. And does it matter what folks are serving time for to be eligible for a prison book program? No. Okay.
No.
Okay.
We don't look at, we do look up people's location just so we make sure the package goes to the
correct
place.
Right, yeah.
But no, it doesn't matter what your conviction is.
Okay.
In fact, we serve even, some civil commitment centers, which is technically prison after you're done with your prison sentence. Yeah. So yeah, it really does not matter. The one thing that I would say we are fundamentalists about at Prison Book Program is that reading is good for everyone, period, full stop. There isn't anyone who shouldn't read. Reading is great for so many things. It's great for health, mental health. It lowers your blood pressure. Reading fiction is heavily associated with building empathy and relationship skills. Books are a great way to connect with people. You read a book and you talk to someone about it. So it builds pro-social kinds of connections. It's just so profoundly good for people in so many ways that it doesn't matter what you're in there for. We'll send you books.
Just a kind of a fun statistic that's very revealing, actually, as to the impact of Prison Book Program. Just in 2024 alone, the program shipped 20,000 packages containing nearly 70,000 books to individuals in over 1,000 prisons and jails across all 50 states, Guam, and Puerto Rico.
That's right.
Yeah.
And we should add overseas military lockups.
Oh.
We recently fulfilled a request for someone who's in a Navy brig in Japan.
Really?
So
Wow.
if you're an American and you're incarcerated anywhere in this country or by any agency or territory of this country, we will endeavor to send you books.
Okay.
Yeah.
Anything else we should share with folks right now?
Just that, we welcome all kinds of help,
Okay.
whether that's with your time, volunteering with us, if that's financial resources, whether you're trying to clear out books from, an aging parent's home
Right,
or
yeah.
from your own home. We really cannot do what we do without the help of the wider community. We have a very small paid staff over at Prison Book Program, and we are 100% powered by generosity, the things that people choose to give us and help us with.
Sure. prisonbookprogram.org.
prisonbookprogram.org.
All right.
Very straightforward.
Thanks so much, Kelly.
Thank you, Joe.
You're welcome.
All right.
Thanks for watching us here at AM Quincy. I'm Joe Catalano, and we'll see you next time.